It's great to have everybody here who's on the list. I'm sure more will join in a moment. My name is Steve Vasquez. I'm helping Jason and Pierre deliver this event, more or less. I've been on the sidelines, but very much an Arturia fan and learning a lot about what has been done recently with this accessibility update and features that were added. Pierre, your title is you're a senior software engineer for Analog Lab. Is that correct?
I used to be senior software engineer. Now I'm a product manager on Analog Lab and some of the MIDI controllers as well. Some of the older MIDI controllers, and basically I'm product manager on most of the keyboard related instruments. So like the pianos, the electric pianos, the organs, all the keyboardist instruments that we make at Arturia right now.
Absolutely. Thank you for explaining. And Jason, I think some of the listeners already know Jason, a musician and producer based out of London, England. Jay, how are you doing today?
I'm okay, Steve, and it's great to be here. Thanks to you and Pierre for making this happen. And so I have to give some shout out to my country. I'm actually based in London, as you say, but I'm actually from Trinidad, so I'm a Caribbean guy at heart. Yeah, but I'm based here, and yeah.
Awesome, Jay. Thank you so much. I think just to explain a little bit of the format, I know Pierre will be with us for about an hour or so, but I think we'll start out with I'll ask some questions between the two of you, more or less general questions about how this project got started. And then Jay, hopefully you'll be able to demonstrate some things. We'll be able to do some Q&A, both live and maybe some questions that are read aloud.
Yeah.
So Jay, can you maybe explain how you got connected to Arturia? How did this all start, really, more or less?
Okay, so I've been an accessibility consultant for about 5 years, and I had been making inroads and reaching out to different manufacturers, and some of them actually reached out to me. And a company that I've been working with a lot was Avid, who does Pro Tools, make Pro Tools. And in 2019, I was invited by Avid to do a presentation at the ADC Audio Developers Conference here in London. And it was a really nice conference, manufacturers from around the world, and Arturia was there, to my pleasant surprise, actually. I didn't know they were going to be there, but, when we walked in the booth, my wife, Sarah, said, "Oh, there's Arturia," because I had been talking about Arturia before, and, I had purchased the V Collection. It was V Collection 5 at the time, and it wasn't accessible. It wasn't accessible at the time. Right. However, I hired somebody to come and save all the presets for me in Pro Tools format. So all I could do was basically load the presets that person had saved for me. But I always felt, it would be amazing if I could meet somebody from Arturia. But I thought it was a long shot because we were in Trinidad then and Arturia was in France, a long way away, thousands of miles away. So I just thought it was a long shot. And it was just like divine intervention that Kevin Molcard from Arturia was there, and he reached out to me and he saw my demo and he came up to me after and he said, "We want to be accessible." And of course that was, pardon the pun, but it was music to my ears, right? And another thing I wanted was, I wanted to use the Keylab as my controller because I had read all about it. And I saw some demos online and I was thinking to myself, yeah, this is the keyboard I want as my controller. And after meeting Kevin, he said that, they wanted to do this. They wanted to be accessible. And a few days later, Keylab arrived, at my door, along with an upgrade to V Collection 7. And, we started chatting, I then met Pierre Lynn, and I'm not so good with the French names, but I think it's Pierre Lynn Avery. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Pierre?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Pierre Lynn was also someone who worked on Analog Lab, and we started a conversation. Sarah and I built some macros, to basically, explore what it could look like. And then I met Pierre Pfister in around November around the time that I was planning my thesis, my final project. And I asked Pierre, I said, Pierre, you know what? I'm doing this project for my finals, for my master, and Arturia has to be there. And, you know, Pierre was very kind and agreed to be one of the panelists on my final project. And he was. And then, you know, we just got talking and Pierre became interested in accessibility. And 2 months later, which I think was truly amazing, and I always speak about how amazing that was. 2 months later, I got an email from Pierre, hi Jay, I want you to check this out. And, you know, it was the beginning of something amazing. And, you know, we say in Trinidad, to cut a long story short, a couple months later, here we are with Accessible Analog Lab and the Key Lab series. And, you know, I think it's one of the high points of my life, you know, and I hope, you know, it's a high point for all visually impaired people, you know, being able to choose these amazing keyboards and these amazing software, you know, to have these recreations is just out of this world. It's fantastic.
It is. It is. So Pierre, what did you know about accessibility before working with Jason? Did you know anything at all?
Yeah, I knew actually quite little. The only thing I knew was from a couple of videos I saw from Native Instruments with their Complete Control series. I saw some videos of how they
Service
use
at intl.paypal.com. Receipt for your payment to train line.
Sorry
Jason
about that.
Dasent, you
Guys,
successfully
I
sent a payment.
apologize.
Hello, Jason Dasent, you sent a
Hold on.
payment of £51.00.
Sorry about that. Okay, my mail is open. Okay, and all my businesses there.
Zoom.safari mail 81 mail inbox 3000 dimmed finder.
Sorry about that, Pierre. You should be okay now.
So yeah, I got interested in that when I saw a couple of videos from Native Instruments on how they did accessibility on the Complete Control. I was quite blown away by how impactful it was for visually impaired people, and it really inspired me in the way I envision the solution as well for the Key Lab, because I felt when I saw that I felt like we could find a solution that would be even more straightforward, and we have something with the Key Lab that's already very, very simple to use for most people. And I felt like when Jason presented me his issues on Analog Lab, that the Key Lab would be the perfect solution for visually impaired people to make it really accessible and really intuitive to use. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I didn't know any of the workflows that people are using most of the time with accessibility. I had very little knowledge of voiceover commands, what people use most of the time. So I discovered.
Victor Henderson has joined a meeting.
Interesting. No, sorry about that. The Jason, I guess Jason and Pierre, how long did the project take from start to finish? Was it a very lengthy period for this for the work that was done?
It was probably roughly 6 months between the first meeting and the release of the first accessible version.
Which blew me away, actually. Which 6 months, that blew me away, you know, in the scheme of things, you know, when from initial contact, that was truly amazing. And at some point, you know, during the conversation, I want to talk about the journey as well, because I think, you know, it's something that's very dear to me, the journey of making it happen. Yeah,
absolutely. Go ahead, Jay. I think I just want to elaborate on anything that you guys felt, you know, just expand on anything that you feel is important.
Okay, so what I want to talk about this time is the journey, because, you know, a lot of people say they want to be accessible. We reach out to people, you know, talking about accessibility, but what I had with Pierre and his team was a rapport, right? In that, you know, we would work on things together, you know, from time to time. So it wasn't like, here's a product. We think this is what you want it to be as accessible. We think this is what accessibility should be, end of story. Right? It wasn't that at all. It was us working through features together, you know, simple things like, okay, how long should the delay be between the time you press a button and you hear speech feedback? How much speech feedback should there be? You know, we had like a classic situation, Pierre, and if you remember this one. So there's a really fantastic feature where when you turn the dial on the Key Lab, it would read out the name of the patch, and then when you press down on the dial, it would say loaded. So it would say like loaded piano 1, and then you know, so which is cool. And but then another cool thing is when you press the arrows on the keyboard, it just loads the patch without like having to turn the dial and press enter. You can just press the arrow keys and it loads. So in checking it out, I thought it was amazing. And I found though that I didn't want to hear the name of the patch and then load it again, you know, when you press down on the button. So Pierre and I went back and forth a few times. Pierre, do you think it's a good idea? And Pierre's like, no, Jay, I think it should say it. And I'm like, Pierre, no, I don't think it should say it, right? And then back and forth. And then Pierre came up with the idea, when you turn the dial, it would read the patch and say loaded. But when you press the arrow keys alone, it would just load the patch and tell you the name of the patch. And I just thought, whoa, this is brilliant, you know? And we had, you remember that, Pierre? Getting that going like that? And I just thought, okay, this is brilliant. This is what collaboration about. This is brilliant, right? And, you know, we had a lot of experiences like that, you know, basically when we touch a slider, a fader, or a knob, you know, what should be said, you know, if we touch it within a certain amount of time, you know, it would just read the value as opposed to calling out the parameter again. And this makes us feel, I mean, I feel now like if I'm seeing, I feel like if I'm reading the screen like a sighted person. And I think, you know, this is what puts Arturia ahead of pretty much everyone else, you know, in taking that time to work with a visually impaired person to make it happen, you know. Steve, I know you jumped on the bandwagon early and you purchased your Keylab and your V collection, you know, and you know,
I did.
A lot of people have been purchasing. I do a lot of teaching, and a lot of my students, both visually impaired and sighted, funny enough, you know, Arturia became accessible for blind people.
Chris to everyone. This is great. I have the 61. How do I get the versions for this?
So, hi, Chris. Glad you like it. We'll give you all that information in a little while. But yeah, so what's amazing, Pierre, is sighted people that I'm working with now are now buying Arturias, you know, because they're accessible, and I'm actually doing demonstrations to my sighted students, you know, using the keyboard. So, you know, my aim and, you know, my aim for this is that I think Arturia deserves to sell millions of these, right? And this is not a sales pitch, right? But I'm really passionate about it. You know, what they've done and what they continue to do. You know, Pierre taking time off his busy schedule to spend time with us today. You know, I just think this is amazing. And in a way, it feels like just the beginning.
So Jason,
yeah,
I have a question for Pierre. I mean, in this journey, Pierre, did you find anything really challenging with the software development and stuff and integrating accessibility or implementing it into your workflow? Or was it pretty straightforward? Or what would you say about that?
I think actually the challenge is starting now because we really pushed, I pushed to get this first version of accessibility. And it was actually surprisingly easy, the solution that we found. And there were, of course, there was some technical challenges, but we've seen way worse in terms of technical challenges. The thing we spent the most time on was really finalizing the amount of feedback that we gave, as Jason sent. But it was not something that I found particularly challenging. But I think the biggest challenge is going to be what we do next and how do we do it, because there's a ton of features that we could make accessible, add more and more accessibility to all our softwares, but we need to find the right way to organize the work and to add it in as smartly as we've done it now. Otherwise, if we try to add too much, the quality might not be as good as what we have done right now. And it's starting to be a bigger project, and it's going to take more effort to add features and new instruments.
Absolutely. Jay, I mean, I guess that makes me think about a question I'd ask Jason, like, are there specific features that you're dreaming about or you are hopeful for, Jay, or things that you have in mind?
Yeah, for sure. They are features. that I'm dreaming about. And what my dream is that the program is 100% accessible, right? And I think we're pretty close, right? It's some simple things, and maybe, you know, as I do the demo in a little while, I'll be able to, you know, talk about some things that I'd like to see. But yeah, there's certain elements to the program that still aren't accessible, right? In terms of being able to
Ali Shelley is the co-host now.
okay, being able to open things up, like, you know, being able to go deeper into the effects. You know, there's an amazing studio mode where you can basically configure and set up all the effects and that sort of stuff, you know. Those are the things I'm looking forward to seeing. That being said, though, I want to talk about some things that are there, that are accessible now, that make my life really cool. Things like being able to create splits and layers, because I perform live a lot, actually. And, you know, being able to create splits and layers and stuff like that is amazing, actually.
Well,
you know?
okay, well, let's demonstrate some things, if that's okay. We can also fill in between
Yeah, we
with
can fill in with
the story and the journry. But
Okay.
I guess a question I have for you is it very simple to enable the speech, text-to-speech output for
Yeah.
the hardware device?
Oh yeah, and it can be done right from the keyboard. And you do that by holding. Oh, first of all, I want to talk about the ergonomics of the
Sure.
keyboard. Yeah, and you can probably attest to this as well, Steve. I find the layout is fantastic, actually. The size of the buttons, where the buttons are placed. You know, the just beneath the screen, there are 3 buttons: Analog Lab, DAW, and User. And it's, you know, really good orientation. You know, and this just happened. I mean, this was long before accessibility, so it's just, you know, a good design of the units all wrong, basically. You know, I'm sure sighted people like this as well. You know, having access to them. The faders feel great. You know, the knobs feel amazing and everything. So, so from that point of view, it makes it very easy to, you know, find your way on the keyboard, right? And Steve, you're always talking to me about how much you enjoy controlling Pro Tools off the key lab, right?
Yes, yes, it's amazing, the controller, how easy it is to just set that setting, and it maps everything to the DAW of your choice. Of course, I've been using it in Pro Tools, but I really enjoy the ergonomics and being able to stay in front of the hardware device, the MIDI controller itself. And I actually upgraded to an or an 88 key lab just recently. But
you have 2, right? You have a 61 and an 88.
I do. I just wanted to say, for people that have questions, we're going to do a live Q&A and questions here towards the end. So just hold on, and we'll get to you. Go ahead, Jay.
All right. So yeah. So to enable the speech. So let me hold on. I have it on right now. It's really simple. So above the screen, there are 4 buttons, right? And you have, okay, so beneath the screen, you have the 3 main buttons: Analog Lab, DAW, and User. Above those, you have the left and right cursor buttons, right? With the jog wheel in the center. And above those, you have the category, that's correct. The category and preset buttons, right, Pierre? Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, so to enable accessibility, you hold down the category and
Browsing instruments, AL settings speech.
okay, you hold down the category and preset buttons together, you press them together, and it automatically comes up on accessibility on or off, right? So I can press down.
AL settings speech on.
Right? So yeah, okay.
Browsing instruments, ARP 2600.
Okay, so that's how you turn it on, right? You just press the 2 buttons and you hit the press down on the dial, and it loads it, and it turns accessibility on or off.
Browse AL settings speech. AL settings speech on.
Okay.
AL settings speech off.
Okay, I gave you guys some wrong information. This is because, as I kind of said, it's an forget it situation. You press down on the 2 buttons, you press down on the dial, and then you turn it to the left to turn it off, and on, and to the right to turn it on. So if I go left, it's already off. If I turn it right,
AL settings speech on.
so AL Analog Lab, right? So left.
AL settings speech off. AL settings speech on.
Right, you guys hearing that, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
quite simple.
Okay, straightforward. And once it's on now, I can just maybe hit the preset button and get out of it. And I'm actually browsing presets, right? So if I play, and I must apologize, Zoom is truncating the sound or gating it for some reason. It's doing some really weird things, you know, in spite of me having everything off, the echo cancellation and stuff. So, so I apologize for,
It's not a problem, Jason. I know you've just been, Jason's been in a big move recently, so he's just setting up his studio again.
Yeah. So, but these are some Zoom issues. So are you guys hearing the keyboard?
Yes.
Okay, so so I'm browsing here now. So now the main thing with Analog Lab and V Collection, for those of you, I know most of you are familiar, but what it is, it's a collection of amazing synthesizers, you know, past and present. And Pierre, I'd like you to elaborate on this, you know, at the end of the demo, because I know a lot of people are going to want to be buying, want to purchase, you know, the V Collection. And you know, the latest one they have is the SQ80, the Ensoniq SQ80, which I used to use back in the day, probably giving away my age here, but I used to use an SQ80 and I loved it. And just to find out that this is available in software now is like, wow, you know. So that's just one of many, you know, you have the DX7, of course. You know, I couldn't afford a DX7 back in the day, but now I can easily in software. Right? You know, you no longer wanted to do that, play that particular patch. So anyway, so you have the DX7, and yeah, I'd like you to talk about this a little bit. So I'll just continue on with my demo.
Victor Henderson has joined the meeting.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to browse. So I'm going to hit the category button, right? So I'm not screen sharing and stuff because I know you can hear through my mixer, and I'm just trying to preserve as much bandwidth as I can for the actual stream. Okay, so, and this is more of an audio type situation. So that's why I'm not screen sharing. So I'm hitting category now, and it says
Browsing instruments, ARP 2600.
So that's the ARP 2600, a big one, right? And for those of you who are old enough to remember the ARP, I was 1 year old when that keyboard came out, actually. So I'm going to be turning the dial now, and I can scroll through.
B3.
Right?
Buckley easel, clavinet, CMI, CS80.
So everything is there, right, guys? Everything that we love, right?
CZ, DX7.
The CZ was a big one. That was my first synthesizer, actually. The Casio CZ101, DX7.
Emulator 2. Farfisa, June 6th, JUP 8.
The Juno 6 and the Jupiter 8, two big ones, right? Now, Roland.
Matrix 12. Mellotron, Mini, Modular, Multi, Obiza, Piano Grand, Piano Upright.
Right, so yeah. I mean, I could go on forever. I mean, there are lots. Everything is there. Everything we love is there in software, right? So check this out. Look what happens when I select. I'm going to load one by turning the dial and pressing down on it.
Piano Obiza.
Right, so this is the OBXA from Oberheim, and check this out.
Browsing Obiza, 433 presets, Beauty Harp.
That's cool, right? Now it tells you how many presets are in here. It's I think it says something like 433 or something like that. So that's cool. So then once that's loaded, now I'm going to hit the preset button, right? And I'm actually going to turn the dial now. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to say what it's going to say, but let it tell you for itself. So check this out. I'm turning the dial to the right now.
Browsing presets, jump. Silver Dawn. Space Tape Angels.
So I'm just turning the dial left and right. Okay, so check this out. As I was saying before, so I'm going to load jump. I'm going to go back to the left.
Silver jump.
Right, so I'm pressing down on the dial.
Loaded jump.
So you see, what's really cool about this is the confirmation. You know, sometimes, you know, with like other products, you press the load button and, you know, you don't know if it's loaded or not. So, or you know, it might be a little disconcerting, but here I just hit the load button. It told me that it was loaded, right? So I can do stuff. Yeah, so it told me that it was loaded, right? So again, if I were to turn the dial, it's reading.
Space Tape Angel. Hard lead.
Right.
Eclectic key. Emo wave.
Okay.
Hard lead. Loaded hard lead.
Yeah, so if you notice, when I turn the dial, it was telling me the name of the patch, and when I pressed down on the dial, it told me that it was loaded, right? So that's cool. But as I get more accustomed to it, I probably really don't need to hear like loaded and stuff like that. So instead of turning the dial, I'm going to press the arrow keys alone, the left and right arrow keys, which are at the bottom of the screen, just above the three main buttons I was talking about. I'm pressing the right arrow.
Endless flight.
So it loaded endless flights, but I didn't have to hear endless flight and then loaded endless flight, right? So, you know, as you get used to it and you get comfortable, it's like right there. It's, you know, it just happens. So like. So I'm going to press the dial again.
Cheese keys.
Cheese keys. Yeah, so that's cool. So let's look at another one. So I'm hit category.
Browsing instruments, ARP 2600.
So let's choose, I'm a big Roland guy, so choose.
DX7, June 6th.
Okay, yeah, the Juno 6, that's nice. So
Browsing June 6th, 202 presets, Venus Rising.
202 presets, right? So preset. So I'm going to load now.
Loaded Venus Rising.
Okay, so.
Yeah, Jay, it's unfortunate that the sound is being gated and kind of they're beautiful sounds though, as people know.
Yeah, and if you go to the Arturia website, which is fully accessible actually, and you go to Pierre, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you click on software instruments and then you see all the different instruments which are fully accessible, and then you go to songs, and they have some really nice demos actually, so you can basically check these out, and you know. But
yeah, and I think maybe we could share a link to the video that you made as well. That could be interesting to explain all the features in more detail. I think. It would be
okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. So Steve, we'll get you that link to share since you set up everything. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I have to give you a bit of a joke about that day with the link. So one of the things I wanted to do, and we will, so Arturia sent a crew to do a nice video with me. They visited my studio here in London, and we spent a nice afternoon with Brian. I think it was Brian Boker. I can't remember his last name, but I think it's something like Boker, something like that. That's correct, Pierre? Yeah,
it's Brochard, but yeah.
Okay, you know what happened? VoiceOver says Boker, but okay, Brochard. So from all his emails, VoiceOver pronounces it wrong. But okay, so Brian and a team came across to me, and the joke is that day we will, as I said, you know, I was able to work closely with Pierre and, you know, getting features. You know, Pierre would, okay, Jay, what would you like next? And one of the things I wanted to get the sustain pedal working, you know, and so I had everything ready to go. And then Pierre sends me an email an hour before to say, Jay, I want you to download a new beta. We've just got the pedal working, you know? So it was, and I downloaded it and it came, and, you know, just in time for me to do the video, and I was able to demonstrate, you know, with the pedal and everything. But just to show, you know, that level of commitment and interest, you know, is really special, you know. And if a company is showing me that.
Ali Shelley is the host now. Steve Boskies has left the meeting.
If somebody is showing me that kind of interest, you know, definitely I want to support that company and buy everything they have, you know, and I want to encourage everybody to support, you know. So anyway, moving right along, I digress. So I'm in the Juno and I'm just scrolling through a couple patches.
90s kick. Classic Road.
So I wouldn't do too much playing if Zoom is kind of messing it up, right? So I'll just show something. So I was browsing there by instruments. I'm going to browse by types instead now. So I'll hit category.
Browsing instruments, ARP 2600.
And I'll hit the right arrow.
Browsing types, bass.
Okay, so bass.
Keys, synth lead.
So let's say keys.
Keys.
I'm just going to press down on the dial.
Browsing keys, bells.
Right, so these are different type of keyboard patches.
Classic synth keys.
Classic synth keys sounds good, so press down.
Browsing classic synth keys, 848 presets, classic road.
And it's really nice to know like how many presets are there. I love that actually. Yeah, so I'm scrolling here.
Loaded classic road.
Okay, and at this time, let's do something like let's build a layer or something like that. So actually, let's do like a piano and string layer. So, oh yeah, and to the right of the keyboard.
Ali Shelley is the co-host now. Steve Boskis is the host now.
Okay, so at the bottom of the keyboard too, you have nine buttons, and these automatically take you into like the main category. So if I press the first one,
Select piano. Select electric piano. Select organ. Select pad.
right? So these are like the main categories. So let's just do like your standard piano and strings. I'm going to press the first button,
Select piano.
right? And now I'm scrolling through all the pianos. Okay, I want a little bit of reverb on this piano, so I'm just going to grab one of the knobs here, right? And
Reverb volume. Minus 26.4 dB. Reverb volume. Minus 3.79 dB. Minus 28.0 dB. Minus 21.5 dB.
get a little bit more.
Reverb volume. Minus 20.1 dB.
Can you guys hear? You guys hearing that, right?
Yeah, not very well, but we can hear it.
We're here. It is just not very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh. All right. So, but are you hearing voiceover talking and everything, right? You hearing what I'm doing, which is probably a little more important.
Yeah. It's just
Yes,
it's just,
yes.
distorted.
All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press part 2 on the keyboard now, right? So you have part 1, part 2, and live, right? So, I have a hardware layout, which I can probably post online for you guys to get an idea of what the keyboard actually looks like. So I press part 2 now.
Select part 2.
Right, and let's go part 2. So now I can browse. I'll go browse now on part 2.
Browsing instruments. ARP 2600.
Let's get some Juno strings going here.
Emulator 2. C. JUP 8. June 6th. Browsing June 6th. 202 presets. Venus Rising.
Okay.
Browsing pre-classic road. 90s kick. Venus Rising. Little Big. Filter sweep. Resorgan. Stellar Evolution. Sine wave. 12 strings 2.
Yeah, like this.
Loaded 12 strings 2.
So I have right now, I have the piano and strings, just like that, right? Simple. So I was able to actually layer the piano and strings. And I want to drop the level of the strings. So I'm just going to grab one of the sliders. I think it's slider 4.
P2 volume. 6.02 dB. Minus 70.0 dB.
Piano alone.
P2 volume. Minus 21.1 dB. Minus 20.1 dB. Minus 18.8. Minus 12.2 dB.
So now if I play, it's not going to be so nice with Zoom, but anyway. You see, I was able to just create a layer and have complete control of everything I was doing, right? So what I'll do, I'll probably cut the demo a little bit short because Pierre was saying, everything is explained properly in the video that I did for Arturia. But just to tell you, the knobs control, all your filters, and they have this really nice thing called macros, where it determines, like, so for example, if I grab the macro that says time, it would actually, deal with, several of the envelope parameters, and everything you kind of want to do is like right there in front of you, and that's what makes Analog Lab special. Let me show you a real cool one. So for example, let's drop the octave of these keyboards, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to part 1 first.
Select part 1.
And I'm going to press the octave button on the keyboard, and check this out. Okay, so I have to hold down part 1. Yeah, so I'll do this. I'll hold part 1.
Select part 1.
And while holding it, I'm pressing the octave button.
Octave part 1 minus 1.
Isn't that absolutely cool? So I just held on like. So it just dropped the octave of the piano and not the strings, right? So let's do it on the strings as well. I'll hold on part 2.
Select part 2.
I'll press the octave down.
Octave part 2 minus 1.
Right? So that's like, that blows me away, right? So let's do something. Let's turn the sustain off on the strings. So when I press the pedal, it would not sustain the strings. So I'll hold down part 2.
Select part 2.
And I'll press the pedal,
Sustain part 2 off.
right? I'll do it again.
Select part 2. Sustain part 2 on.
Isn't that like brilliant? Like absolutely blew my mind. So these are the kind of things, that we went through together, Pierre and I, and
It's
we-
amazing.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's I feel like if I'm actually seeing the screen, it's mind blowing actually. And if this is where it's going, and if we, as Pierre says, this is the early stages, what's going to happen next, guys?
So Jay,
yeah,
we're about, I think, almost 40 minutes in now, and
okay, are we talking for so long? Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think we could maybe. Do you think we should? I want to say something about like I said, the keyboard. This Keylab is just a great all around MIDI controller, and gives you the faders and ability to do quick mixes and balancing on the fly, right in front of your keyboard. And I don't have to bounce back. With my setup, I have to move across part of the room to get to the computer to do certain things.
Yeah.
And I really love that I can do everything right in front of the keyboard. But let's do some Q&A.
Yeah, sure.
If let me I have some help for that part.
Sure.
Ben, I think Ben had a question. So let's unmute Ben.
Okay, who's getting some bad feedback from someone? Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Hi, Ben.
Well, I think he doesn't have a question right now, but if anybody has a particular question. Scott. Okay, so go ahead and unmute Scott.
Okay, I think anytime Ali
Scott has
opens
joined
up,
the meeting.
I think anytime Ali opens up, we get a bad feedback. But
Scott, can you hear us?
Yeah. How you doing?
There you go. All right.
that's what it.
Cool. So I got a couple of technical questions for Pierre, if I can. First of all, thanks for being here, man. At the moment, I'm a complete control user. I rely on Native Instruments' accessibility layer, and I'm mostly unhappy with the experience. So I'm looking for an alternative product to jump ship to for me. And I'm also here today kind of scouting for information for some of my students that also want to jump ship, and also a couple of friends of mine who are like really high level arrangers working on a more commercial level. So from Jason's demo, I'm hearing a lot of stuff that I like. Just a couple of questions. Am I right in thinking that you guys build on Juice at Arturia?
Yes.
Cool. So are there any plans to move towards actual GUI accessibility?
Yeah, it's something that we are looking into, especially since the updates of Juice. You probably saw it.
Yeah, 610. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the situation right now as things stand?
Right now, we're not using the latest accessibility feature of Juice.
Right.
We would need to, update it. We don't have a status of the amount of work it would require to do everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much work it is, but we are planning on investigating in the next couple of months.
Okay. And what's the status of accessibility right now for your software center?
The software center is not accessible right now.
Okay. So
Okay.
One of the
I want to expand on that a little bit. That being said, if you use VOCR, which is the scanning software, right?
Yeah.
You are able to do things like perform installations, right? It's a little bit of you have to jump through a couple of hoops and stuff. But if you use VOCR, you're able to like install products and activate products. Now there's a situation. So I've been able to do everything until the last installation that I did, which was the SQ8A. And for some reason, voice with VOCR, I wasn't able to see the SQ80 on screen. I saw everything else. I don't know if it's that the screen got full and there was one more item. Pierre, I don't know what it
Yeah,
was.
it's most likely a
It might
scrolling
be.
thing.
Yeah.
Might be.
So in that,
Is
in that,
anybody
in that case,
is
Sarah,
anybody
yeah. Mhm.
is anybody already testing this stuff and giving you feedback on Windows?
No, but Pierre, you confirmed that it worked on Windows, right? Because I think, did you, I think you mentioned that you did Windows early on, and the accessibility is there on Windows as well, right?
Sure, we test everything we do on Windows and Mac, but we don't have a visually impaired beta tester who is using it on Windows. So
Okay, would you
it
be
would
open to having
interesting to
one?
have beta testers using Windows, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I can connect you with a couple of people that would be
Great.
good candidates for that. And last technical one for now. Am I right in thinking at the moment you're delivering the speech feedback via TTS, right?
I'm not familiar with the term TTS,
Like the
but we're
text to
going through the system.
speech API.
System
Yes, you're
voice.
doing it through system voice.
System
Yeah,
voice,
we're going through the
Okay.
system voice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to sort of reshape how you're delivering stuff to get it communicating through the actual accessibility APIs on Windows and Mac? The reason that I ask that is that communicating through the system voice kind of has some inherent limitations in terms of if someone has got like a really tightly integrated setup and they're very specific about like the screen reader voice they want, the rate they want, the punctuation that they want to be able to route that through a specific playback device. They want to be able to interrupt speech. All of those things become more difficult and less productive with the system voice involved.
I want to kind of maybe try to answer that a little bit, Scott, and it's maybe more of an opinion than an answer, right?
Yeah.
I thought about that as well, but my thought is if it would slow production down of the actual, and Pierre, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking like in my case, I would wonder, if everything is working through system voice, is it more important to actually get all the functions of the software and hardware working, having access to everything that the software has to offer, as opposed to maybe tweaking a voice? I mean, it'd be great if it comes later. It'd be great if we had everything. But my thing, if, for example, it was a situation of a list of priorities, I would like to see everything in Analog Lab and Key Lab become accessible before worrying about choosing the voice that I want. That's my opinion on it. So it's more of an opinion than an answer. Pierre, I don't know if you want to jump in and, but
yeah, I think that's where my understanding of the needs, I think, is a bit short, and on the most common practices, and this is the first solution that we came up with. If more and more people are asking to go through the API, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal to change it.
Okay, so
I can't promise anything, but it doesn't seem that hard to communicate with the APIs. It's
So it
more a question
seems-
of how many people would prefer that compared to what we have right now.
Yeah, it seems like a summary of that would be like, you're open to tweaking the user experience, you just need the feedback on it, right? Is that an accurate summary?
Yeah. I think having a good representation of the global use cases would be very useful for us.
That's great to hear, man. And just one more question, if I can. Is all of this exclusive to Arturia hardware, or is it something that can be mapped to be driven by controllers from other companies?
Oh, this is cool. Pierre, you answer this one, but this is very cool.
Yeah, so some accessibility features work with any MIDI controller. So you can map the preset browsing, the main knobs, the macros, the effects, these kind of things. You can map it on any MIDI controller.
And is the process to do that accessible? Or
yeah, the mapping of those is not accessible right now. So you will need some help if you want to use, for example, complete control keyboard on Analog Lab and
Okay.
and have it accessible, so you wouldn't need some help to set it up.
Can you save that mapping and share it amongst other users that need the accessibility once it's done once, out of interest?
Yeah, presets.
We can create some templates and import
Okay.
it, but
Great.
even then, importing the templates is not currently accessible. So
Sure, but I mean, this
you need some help
is
to
all
import.
stuff. Presumably, this is all stuff that will improve once you start moving towards like proper GUI access, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Scott, thanks. I mean, great
Yeah.
question.
All right. I've taken enough of your time. Cheers.
Appreciate it, man.
Fantastic questions, Scott. Really good.
So yeah, they're very good questions. So we have a few, I think. Andy, Ali, could you read Andy's question?
Andy says, will this system be applied to use with pigments? Granular synthesis has always been hard for me. Thanks.
Yes, Pigments works with analog. It's accessible through Analog Lab V. So if I just bring it up right here now, I'll just do it quickly. Check this out, Andy.
Browsing instruments.
Let's go.
CZ. Piano upright pigments.
Right, so
Browsing pigments. 1473 presets. Haroda woodwinds.
okay, so
Cinemascope. Haroda woodwinds.
I'm just scrolling through the presets, right? I love this patch actually.
Preset American Small Studio Light.
Oh, I think it didn't come out into live mode. So.
Select live. Chris to everyone. Where can we get this? Zoom.us has new window. Browsing B3.
My bad, sorry about that.
Multi.
Sorry.
SEM. Profit VS. Profit 5. Pigments. Browsing pigments. 1473 presets. Is there a feature to search for presets?
Okay, hold on.
Loaded Haroda woodwinds.
Okay, I'm still on Andy's question. So I have Pigments loaded, and I'm just gonna move the knobs and faders and stuff at random. Okay, Andy.
P1N2 sustain. P1N2 attack. P1N VCA sustain. P1N VCA decay. P1 timbre. Point chorus mix. P1 FF. 0.00. P1 time. P1N VCA decay. 3.48 seconds.
So basically, I've just been kind of messing with some of the parameters, but it shows you that it controls Pigments just like it controls all the other instruments via Analog Lab. If you had the actual software itself, the Pigments instrument itself, and you loaded it, Pierre, what's the possibility of having access to the parameters loading the actual synth itself as opposed to loading it through Analog Lab?
Yeah, then it's the answer to this is the same as for Scott's question. Is we need to update all the Juice API to have a fully working accessibility with all the GUI elements, which we don't have right now. So right now you can't really use Pigments outside of Analog Lab if you want it to be accessible.
But that being said, a lot of the parameters that you would want to control on the fly, like with the macros and stuff, are accessible at the moment. Yeah, so definitely, definitely you can enjoy Pigments. You know, you could definitely enjoy using it. Yeah. So hope that.
Go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
So go ahead. Who's next? Who was?
I think that that was Andy. Thanks for the question, Andy. Chris, does he have his hand raised, Ali? Is that maybe we should bring him to the stage?
So before you go to Chris, Andy had a follow-up question. I'm not sure if it was answered in all this technical talk, but he said, can I import my own samples into Pigments through this instead of the present presets? This is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, this is, yes.
So we don't really have a dedicated sampler right now in Analog Lab. We have some instruments that are in Analog Lab that are also samplers that you could use to create your own presets, but editing those instruments is not right now accessible. So it would be quite tricky to create your own presets with custom samples. So yeah, I don't know if this answers the question.
No, I think you answered to your best ability. So I think there's a question, another question from Chris. Does he want to go live? Is that the idea, Alex?
I could read it to you if you want.
Okay, yeah, read
It
it.
says, Chris says, this is great. I have the 61. How do I get the version for this? Where can we get this?
The version for Analog Lab? Because the accessibility is available in the current production version. So if you just update, make sure that your Analog Lab is up to date, everything should work as Jason sent you. So showed you. So you just
Just
need
to everyone. So it is there now. Zoom.us has new window.
Yeah, it's there now. And Chris, if you need any help, you can reach out to me and I can probably help you get it up and running and load it and everything. As I say, it's very straightforward. But if you have the latest version, it's there right now, actually, accessibility.
I think we have someone that would like to ask a live question. Let's unmute them.
Jessel G has joined the meeting.
Hello, can you hear us?
Hello.
Go ahead and on your window, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, smashing. I've really enjoyed listening to this. Thanks very much for this. It all sounds really exciting. Is there a way of searching the presets? Because as you said, there was like 400 or more presets. Is there a way of quickly searching for them or navigating quickly through them? I was interested that there was the search by types or browse by types. So if you wanted to go to, preset 400, how can you do that quickly?
So we don't really have numbers on our presets in Analog Lab. So there's not really any way to select a number once you are using your Keylab or even in Analog Lab. The kind of searches like the navigation we have right now in Analog Lab is either by types and subtypes, or by instruments, or by banks. And in Analog Lab, you can also search by preset name, but it's not something that you can do with the Keylab itself. And I don't think the name search is accessible right now.
We have, that being said, Sarah, my wife has done some, are you on Mac, Chessa?
No, I'm on Windows.
Oh, okay. But my wife has done some macros where to allow me to be able to search on Mac, so I can search by name, as Pierre was saying, But if you were on Mac using Keyboard Maestro, we could have shared those with you. But I know Windows has something called Hotspot Clicker, which works similar to Keyboard Maestro. So in the interim, until Arturia does it, where you can search with accessibility, if you were able to do something like that, But that being said, it's pretty. That being said, it's the browsing is very convenient actually, and I don't really use that search function because I find I can get to everything pretty quickly. So let me get to something quickly for you. So I'm going to the stage 73. So there's a patch I really love called Looking for Stevie, right? So check this out.
Browsing instruments, ARP 2600.
So I'm going to go to stage 73.
Pigments, SEM, SQ8, Solana, Synclavier, Synthic, stage 73.
Right, so I'm going to go
Browsing stage 73, 78 presets, clean Mark 5. Beneath 2, Cap and Crop, default Mark 5.
I'm just moving
Hunting for light split, looking for Stevie.
And there we go.
Loaded loop, reset looking for Stevie unliked.
You see how quick that was, basically?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, when you get familiar with these things, it sounds like you can navigate quite quickly, which is nice.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. It just feels very intuitive, and you could just kind of navigate really quickly. And what was nice, and was it Scott? When we were talking about like the optimization and efficiency of the TTS right now, the system voice. Pierre and his team has spent a lot of time with me in terms of tweaking things like the delay, how long should something be, when you press a button on the keyboard to the time you get speech feedback. So although they're using the system voice, they spend a lot of time optimizing it for it to be intuitive and quick, and and I'm really happy with how it works right now.
It did sound quite responsive there. That was nice. And if we can get the Juice 2 stuff working and we can use the GUI, the searching, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the first thing that's going to be rather easy to implement once we have the Juice accessibility. The search is going to be one of the most straightforward thing to enable.
That's smashing. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So
Thanks for your question. I think we have a few more questions. I know it's getting close to an hour for Pierre, but
I was just on the live mic there, in the webinar.
You can mute.
I don't know how many people there are, but
Craig has a question. I think Ali's going to read it for us.
Does this accessibility help with setting up the Key Labs keyboard with a MIDI hardware device?
Yeah, that's another very good question, and it's going to be very much related to the Juice as well, because we have a software which is called the MIDI Control Center, which is also using Juice. So I think the main solution to make the configuration of the Key Lab very easy would be to add accessibility to the MIDI Control Center. So that's going to be part of the investigation that we're going to make in the following months. But right now, Analog Lab doesn't allow to configure your MIDI controller to control external hardware. It's the MIDI Control Center that's doing that, and it's not accessible yet.
Thanks, Pierre. I will provide an email address, mine, to help with maybe collecting feature requests or any kind of questions people have, and that will be available. It's just quite simple, steve@baskis360.com, B as in Bravo, ASKIS360.com. Again, steve@baskis360.com. For anybody that doesn't get the chance to ask a question. I don't know if we have any other questions, Ali, do we? I really appreciate Pierre's time. I think it's about an hour now, Pierre. Do you have more time or do you need to go?
I could have 5 more minutes, but I will have to leave soon. So
I understand.
We can wrap up. It was very interesting for me. And I'm looking forward for having like more questions and more feature requests, and maybe at some point it would be very interesting to organize some kind of focus groups if more and more people are using Analog Lab and the accessibility features to agree on what's the direction that we want to take it.
Yeah, and I'm actually blown away by the interest, because I know a lot of people have contacted saying, that the time was a little bit strange for them because a lot of people are in the US and it's like early morning. I know a lot of people wanted to join and have been reaching out to both Steve and myself, so the interest is there, and I'm really happy that the interest is there, because I think the interest from us, the visually impaired community, needs to support, the effort that people like Pierre are putting into this, I mean.
Chris, to everyone, thank you for everything you redoing.
So I'm just thinking, I was really pleasantly surprised to see, well, not surprised really, but I was really pleasantly, you know what I mean? I'm happy that so many people are showing interest. As I say, Pierre, you have people like Steve and myself, who will support this and, make sure everyone knows, that Arturia is now accessible. I'm sure you have a lot more people here who'll be here today, I just, ask you guys to, spread the word, let them know, what the product is like, and that the fact that they are accessible now, we have, commitment from a company that's willing to go, that mile for us, make sure that, we have the same access as sighted people. So, so I want to thank Pierre and Steve and Ali. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Jason. really congratulations to both of you, like all three of you, for organizing this. I mean, like you said, all the time zones and the time in which you've been able to accomplish so much. And Pierre, like, I think you're a
And be clear
forerunner
to everyone.
for
Thank you. .us has new window.
the way companies should run their business. And I think it's very touchant, impressionnant. Bravo, félicitations. Really amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm just really blown away right now, actually quite emotional, you know. Yeah, you know, I just thinking when we had that first call and you said you wanted to do this, here we are 8 months later and we have an accessible product, you know. Again, you know, I want to say thanks, you know, to you and your team, you know, Kevin and Pierre and Brian, everybody that I've met at Arturia, you know, everybody has the same passion, you know, and I think that's what's driving this whole accessibility thing. And I think it's only going to get better. You know, so I want to say, you know, thanks for taking the time to join us. Steve, thanks for organizing this. And I know you're going to tell me again tomorrow about how much you enjoy controlling Pro Tools from your key lab, but that's okay. You can tell me tomorrow. You can tell me the day after as well. So
Absolutely. No, thanks again, Pierre. Thanks to both of you and everybody that joined. I will post a link and this video, hopefully no problem for everybody to view again if you weren't able to see it, and the link that Pierre was speaking about that Arturia put together.
yeah.
Well, I think we'll let Pierre go and we'll adjourn this.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, Scott and Andy and everybody who joined us. You know, and as I say, I'm an email away, you know, if anybody needs any assistance at all in getting up and running, you know, if you've purchased already or if you're thinking about it and you want to see a little bit more, the video will kind of show everything in detail, and there'll be good quality audio in the video, you know, so you'll be able to hear the patches and everything that you couldn't hear on Zoom today. So guys, thank you so much for your interest, and, you know, let's keep this journey going. Thanks so much, Pierre. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ali.
All right, everybody.
Thanks.
Take care, and
Bye.
we'll catch you again soon.